Good afternoon. Welcome on this ANK webinar. My name is Geneviève Anne. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director of the French and the Belgian market. Very happy to be your host today. Especially we are going to talk about the United States. As you may know, the United States are the last addition to our portfolio of destination, and we will have with us Kirk Reynolds to present us ANK in the United States and to tell us about things and how things are doing over there. Before to start, just a few reminders. As usual, you're welcome muted on the webinar. So if you have any question, there is a little box called Q&A at the bottom of your screen where you can write any question you may have. If we don't have time to answer them at the end of the webinar, don't worry, you will receive a personal answer by email. I will be back together with Kirk at the end of the session to answer all of your questions. Just as so you know, also the webinar is recorded, so you can have it maybe in 2 or 3 days. And if you want to pass it to any of your colleagues who cannot attend today, then feel free to do it, please. Thank you. So to start with, and before to hand over to Kirk, I would like to give you some feedback, general feedback about ANK. Kirk, if you can flip the slide for the next one. Abercrombie & Kent, you know, for most of you, is an old company. It has been operating for more than 58 years now, so we have a lot of experience. We can offer you in so many destinations of the world classical itineraries, but also off the beaten tracks itineraries, and eventually very special tailor-made experiences and activities. It is also interesting at the moment in the troubled time that we are going through to note that we have been going through a lot of crises, especially in the last 20 years. So we know how to handle any kind of situation. When your passenger maybe are far away from home in one of our countries, there will always be someone in the team to help them and assist them and keep you informed on what is happening on the spot. And to do that, we have a large network of 55 offices in 30 countries, which means again that we are very close to the ground. We know our destination like the back of their hand and any of their region. We can also keep you posted and informed of what is happening when you plan your trip or when your clients are on spot. So it's a very important, and it, I think, gives you peace of mind to work with us in so many countries of the world. Very important to us too, our health and safety procedure. This is not something new to us. They have been in place for several years now. But of course, with the period of crisis we are going through and the COVID, it's good to know that we pay a lot of attention to these procedures. Obviously, they will be improved, adjusted, increased to match the requirements of the day. But this is something that our 55 offices apply every day. We are quite tough to our suppliers too, by the way, and we ask them to be on top of things also on this aspect of our activity. Talking about our suppliers, I'd like to say that for most of our partners, we have a very long-term relationship with them, and it's very important to you, to us, because they will never let us down. Whatever kind of question you may have, is it touchy, is it difficult, is it something unusual to get, we know they won't let us down, and they will help us to answer your query. Talking about suppliers, I mean hotels, restaurants, transportation companies, but also people like the more institutional, like the embassies, the consulate. We can be on top of things of what is happening and give you the best service for any kind of questions. So don't hesitate to ask. And to conclude with this particular slide, I'd like just to talk about the very fashionable at the moment, physical distance. ANK is historically the operator of private travel. So we know what private mean, and the privacy, the comfort of our clients are always been very, very important to us. So everything like booking small boutique hotel, isolated camp in the middle of nowhere, private transfer, private guides, you know, cutting lines where queuing in a museum, offering the possibility to visit a place before or after hours. And for those who can afford, maybe propose private yacht, private jets, private islands. This is something we know very well and that we can offer to your clients. So these points, all these points, I hope are encourage you to use ANK even more than before the crisis that we are going through. The next slide is just a quick reminder of our network. So you can see on this map the 55 offices of Abercrombie & Kent. So as you can see, we can offer a lot of destination, being a standalone destination or combined itineraries. I would like to add that if Enki is very well known to be a luxury operator, we can also cater for more modest or let's say affordable circuits. For example, clients nowadays very often wants to go for more private accommodation, something more affordable but less sophisticated, and we can answer to this kind of question. So please don't hesitate. Even if you believe that maybe it's not luxury travel, we can probably answer your query. And finally, just a quick reminder that Sanctuary Retreats is also part of our network. So Sanctuary Retreats use the same way, health and safety, intimacy, comfort for the client, and you can find all these elements in our camps and lodges of Africa, but also in our river cruises in China, in Egypt, and obviously in Myanmar. So that was the general information. Thank you for your attention. And now over to you, Kirk. I will be back at the end of the session. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Genevieve. And you can actually stay online. This is my first presentation to the European market. So I'm sure that I'll say something that's extremely American, that'll be confusing, or I'll speak too quickly. So you can just give me a heads up if I'm moving too quickly. So my name is Kirk Reynolds. I'm the operations manager in the United States. Excuse me, Genevieve, I'm just getting a little bit of feedback here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. I just can hear my own voice in my head. So I just want to give you an overview of the United States market and what we're doing with Abercrombie & Kent and a few of our favorite destinations. We do operate in the United States from Florida up to Alaska. Some of the pictures here I want to show you are national parks. That's a great Yellowstone National Park with the bison there, all the way up to Alaska and California. But we also operate in Florida and New England and throughout the Midwest. And so I just want to reiterate what Genevieve was saying, that we are the newest DMC in the Abercrombie & Kent network. There are 55 offices all around the world, and we've been open for the last year. And it's been an extreme honor to actually operate this company for A&K. I come from a background of operating trips in national parks for the last 15 years, and it's very near and dear to my heart, and something that we're very proud to be doing, including not just the national parks, but the coastal areas, all the way up to Alaska and all across the United States. Right now, just to give you a little market feedback, business has been very strong domestically in the United States. And, of course, that's come from American travelers staying in the United States and not being able to travel abroad. But as a new business for A&K, it's been extremely useful to essentially do a year of test trips for the United States market. And so when borders do open up and you can travel to the United States, we'll have a finely tuned machine. We've gotten lots of great feedback on our trips, and they seem to be really resonating with the A&K clientele. So just to give you an introduction of our team, this is our extended team. Some of our best team members are our guides. As you know, in the travel market, the guides are everything to the success of a trip. Our guides are professionals outside of guiding. They're professors, they're PhDs, doctors, professional photographers. I'll give you an example. The gentleman on the left is a geologist. He wrote the book Carving the Grand Canyon, so he's an author as well. And so when your guests come with us to the Grand Canyon, you'll be paired with Mr. Wayne Rainey, that's his name. And he really brings the Grand Canyon to life. So 70 million years of water erosion that creates the massive Grand Canyon. He tells the story like no other, and he is considered the expert on the Grand Canyon, and he's on our guide team. So those are the kind of experts that you can expect on our trips. So like I said, we do operate the entirety of the United States, but today I just want to focus on the Western United States and some of the highlighted areas. These are a few of our favorite national parks. So starting with the American West, I was talking about the Grand Canyon. Certainly a popular destination. It's massive scale and beauty makes it a big draw. And because of that, there are a lot of people who go and visit the Grand Canyon. And a lot of people visiting means long lines trying to get into the national park, long lines at the edge of the Grand Canyon to see it. But our guests don't experience it that way. Our guests get picked up outside the Grand Canyon from their hotel. Our guides take them in through a side entrance that no one else can access. And so we skip the lines and we go straight to a private viewing spot. So if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you can see massive amount of people right there in one place trying to get their selfie picture and trying to get the best spot to see the Grand Canyon. We avoid those areas. We go to off the beaten path trails and viewpoints so we can actually enjoy the Grand Canyon in peace. And this is just a good example of how we operate all of our trips in national parks and other parts of the country. Another favorite destination in a national park in our portfolio is Grand Teton National Park. So if you're familiar with Jackson Hole and Yellowstone National Park, this is that area. And this is a picture taken in late September. You can see the aspen trees are starting to turn color. It's also a time where the crowds have died down, and so that makes it a favorite time for us to actually visit Grand Teton National Park. The wildlife are migrating, the elk are bugling. Is just really a spectacular time to visit. And here are a few other big national parks that we do very well in. When it comes to operating in the United States, I believe is 100%. I don't think anyone else can operate trips in the national parks and across our country like A&K can. So we operate in Yosemite, Yellowstone National Park, Redwood National Park, which is Northern California, and Zion National Park, which is just north of the Grand Canyon. Then not to forget about the East Coast, New England. This is a destination I lived in for 15 years, and it's very near and dear to my heart. We operate in Vermont and New Hampshire, upstate New York, Maine, Massachusetts. And so embracing the New England culture, so these quaint towns along the Maine coast, for example, or the lighthouses, or doing some private brewery and winery tastings. These are a lot of things that we like to do. And of course, along the coast, there's Acadia National Park, way up in Maine. Beautiful sea cliffs where there's adventurous rock climbing, hiking, bicycling, of course, whale watching and puffin watching. And then we also do some great sailing programs down through Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. Then on the West Coast, this is a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. So in California, we do everything from the wine country to the national parks, to the seashore, to the cities. Along the coast, we do some very active adventures, embracing the beautiful coastal area, whether it's sea kayaking with otters or visiting a wild horse ranch on the California coast. That's the top right picture. This is a beautiful 1,500-acre ranch. It's a nonprofit dedicated to saving the wild horses in the United States. These are horses that have been preserved from, honestly, from slaughter. And so as ranches are gobbled up by private ownership, these horses are given a place where they can run free. So the land is returned to its normal state and the horses are returned to their normal state. And then also along the California coast is beautiful whale watching and just an amazing marine sanctuary along the California coast. Yeah, up in wine country, this is an area that we have decades of experience. So right now in a COVID period, wineries are adapting just like the rest of us are. And a lot of the tastings are done outside, and a lot of tasting rooms and interior tasting rooms are just closed. And some of the wineries are just closed for public viewing. We have longtime relationships with some of the cult wineries, meaning those hard to get into wineries and those very exclusive vineyards. We have great relationships with them. And so we can get into those places because we have the relationships with the owners. And our guests love that feeling of getting into a winery that no one else can get into. So we do great tastings and food pairings. We can go horseback riding through the vines, hot air ballooning, and some great hiking around the area. It's not just a food and wine destination, but it really is an active adventure destination as well. And then in Alaska, we have, I would say, 30 plus years of experience in Alaska. This is an area that's truly the last frontier of the United States. So we have long-term relationships with some of the beautiful boutique backcountry lodges. And that's kind of how you really want to experience Alaska. Alaska is about wildlife, it's about the mountains, it's about the northern lights, and really getting away from normal civilization. So we do have great float planes that take you to these hard to get to lodges, where the only way to get into is not by car, but by float plane. We have a great Iditarod program where you can learn to mush with your husky dogs on the actual Iditarod Trail. Some great wildlife photography programs, as well as some fly fishing programs. Alaska's been very big for us this summer. Again, I think a lot of people looking to escape the urban areas and get away from people as much as possible, and Alaska being that perfect destination to do so. This is a great shot of Denali. Denali National Park being the national park that hosts or holds Denali, the highest point in all of North America. This picture was taken in September. And so Denali doesn't have a lot of foliage that turns color, but it has tundra. And that's the ground cover that you can see on the ground turning to orange and reds. Katmai National Park, so on the southern coast of Alaska, is a beautiful national park, really well known for its bear viewing. And this is a picture taken with an iPhone, so you can get a sense for how close you can get to the bears safely, but you can get close to the bears as they're catching the salmon that are swimming upstream as they spawn. And then Kenai Fjords, again on the southern coast of Alaska, gorgeous place to either go by yacht, private yacht, or you can drive through the fjords. So you can see the icebergs calving into the water. So beautiful glaciers right on the coast. So I want to give you a few examples of some of our tailor-made itineraries. These are just sample itineraries that you can use as inspiration, whether it's in Alaska and taking a plane and landing right on the top of Denali or on a glacier, or a Grand Teton and Yellowstone itinerary in Wyoming, Northern California to see Yosemite, and Utah, the Mighty Five. When they say the Mighty Five, they mean the 5 national parks in Utah. And this is a picture of Arches National Park, just outside of Moab, Utah. So this is a great itinerary where you can see all 5 in a week. In California, I mentioned wine country, and then we have a couple family versions of our Alaska and our Yellowstone itineraries. And then a new one departing from Phoenix, Arizona, driving up through Sedona, the Grand Canyon, and Zion and Bryce National Parks. So I want to give you a few examples of what A&K does that's different and very suitable for a COVID environment. As Genevieve was mentioning, a lot of what we do is already appropriate for COVID environments, meaning we do small groups, private groups, we go to off the beaten path trails, so we're avoiding crowds, we skip lines. And so a lot of what we do is already well suited, and I think that's a reason for our success this year. This is a good example of that. This is our National Parks Flying Safari. So for your guests that have their own planes, they have maybe a NetJet membership, or if they would like for us to charter a plane, we can do that too. So this way they can see what's called the Big 3 in a week. The Big 3 are the Big 3 national parks: Yosemite, that's the top left, Grand Canyon, top right, Yellowstone, bottom left, and then we throw in a 4th national park, Arches National Park, on the bottom right there as a day trip. So you fly into California, your guides pick you up directly from the plane, whisk you away, you go on these amazing adventures to see the national parks, stay at beautiful lodges just outside the national parks, and then off you go to the next one. So going from Yosemite to Grand Canyon to Yellowstone, and you do it in a week. And geographically, here's a map here on the bottom right. It's a massive, massive geographical piece of land that you cover. So if you were to do this by car, you'd probably budget 3 to 4 weeks to do this. This way you can jump around and see the best of the national parks in a week. So something else that we do that's really appropriate for a COVID environment is, one, we work with boutique properties. So we don't work with the massive hotel chains. We avoid the big hotels with the big hallways and entryways. So we work with small properties. This is a great shot of Sheldon Chalet. This is probably one of the most remote chalets in the world. You have to take a small plane to a town called Talkeetna, Alaska, and then from Talkeetna, you take a helicopter, private helicopter, you land on a glacier in Denali National Park, and that's where this chalet sits. It has 8 rooms, and so it's a perfect place for a private buyout. And it is, if you have guests that are really adventurous and really looking for something that is just going to create a lot of stories and memories, this is a beautiful place to do it. We also have a series of private yachts. This is called the Kaori yacht, the picture here. It's a ultra luxe yacht. It sits off the southern coast of Alaska. If anyone watches movies and has seen 50 Shades of Grey, and I really hope that's just an American thing, this is a yacht that was used in that movie, just basically to show luxuriousness. And of course, our private plane program. So not just the flying safari that I was talking about, but be able to see all other parts of the country and do it quickly and privately. And I want to give you a few examples of other properties that we work with that we consider boutique and safe. In Sonoma County, Northern California wine country, we work with Farmhouse Inn. Each of those buildings that you see there is its own unit, and so your guests can stay in one of those. And the key things are they can access their hotel room or their casita from an exterior door. They don't have to walk through a long hallway. And then that way they create social distance and they feel safe. Up in Alaska, in Tutka Bay, there's the Tutka Bay Lodge. They have a series of cabins that are right there on the bay. Winvian Farm in Connecticut, the bottom left picture, one of my favorite properties in the United States. It's quirky, it's unique. Each room, there are 16 houses really, that each have their own theme. This one happens to be the Chartered Oak Room, and they literally built a house around this oak tree. And there's another room that's the helicopter house, where they built a house around a 1958 Sikorsky helicopter. The helicopter is in the living room, and it's done very well. It's not kitschy. It's just a very unique property and done very well. And then you might be familiar with Amangiri in the Southwest in Page, Arizona. They have a new series of luxury safari style tents right there on the property. And so these are 2 to 3 bedroom tents. We've also created a series of regional road trips. And so if your guests want to see just a region of area, whether it's Northern California and going up and seeing redwoods and Southern Oregon, we've created an itinerary for that. Or if they want to go to New York City, but don't want to spend a lot of time in New York City and they just want to get out, we have a great itinerary going from New York up through New England, seeing Vermont, upstate New York, Hudson Valley, and the Berkshires. In Southern California, departing from Los Angeles, we've got a 7-day itinerary that goes around Zion National Parks and Bryce National Parks. And then from the Southeast, from Atlanta, we have a nice itinerary that goes around the Great Smoky Mountains and exploring that Appalachian culture. And just a few more practical slides. Hopefully this is an educational presentation for you as well, so you can understand how the United States is operating, as well as A&K and how we're operating in national parks differently. So the parks operate on a park by park basis, meaning we have the National Park Service, but each park has the autonomy to open as they see safe and most appropriate. So a lot of parks are operating under a reservation system, and we have a very close relationship with the national parks. And so if your guests want to get into Yellowstone or into Yosemite, we have the right number to call and the right people that we have a relationship with, where we can get them the right permits and the reservations to get in. The parks are trying to control how many people are getting into the national parks. This is a picture of Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park. It's a very famous geyser in Yellowstone. And because it's famous, a lot of people love to go to it. This is a good example. If we want to show our guests Old Faithful, we'll get them up very early in the morning and we'll be the first ones to see it before all the crowds get there. And so we do this because we have a great relationship with the parks and we can get those permits as we need them. In national parks, the same social distancing rules or physical distancing rules apply. So we go to off the beaten path trails. If we do see another party on a hiking trail, we step off the trail and give each other 6 feet to pass. And we go to just some of the beautiful landscapes that most people don't go to. 99% of national parks are just not viewed by the general public. that gives us an enormous opportunity to explore other parts of the park, which we love to do. Some of the safety precautions. So instead of long buffet lines and crowded dining rooms, we're doing in-cabin dining or in-house dining. When we're out touring throughout the day, we set up gorgeous picnics. We know exactly where to go, where there is no one else, with beautiful views. And in my opinion, food just does not taste better than when you're outside and you have a gorgeous view. All of our vehicles, all of our rooms have sanitary protocols that they must meet. And the hotels are doing contactless check-in. I think this is pretty standard across the hotel industry now. So just to summarize how we travel into national parks, we always use private parties and private guides using private vehicles and boutique hotels. There's a cleanliness and sanitization standard that everyone must meet. We're going to off the beaten path trails and viewpoints. And in addition to the big name destinations, we pride ourselves in knowing the off the beaten path locations like our national monuments or state parks and native lands. This is a great picture. You might be familiar with this place called Antelope Canyon in the Southwest. It looks just like this picture, but this is not Antelope Canyon because Antelope Canyon has hordes of people that go there. It's a beautiful canyon, but it is very popular. So we go to a secret canyon, a secret slot canyon, and that's what this picture is. And that way we can avoid the crowds, but still get the same quality experience. And that is it. I would appreciate any feedback, any questions that you have. And again, I'm very excited to be sharing the United States and travel into the United States when the borders open up.
Thank you very much, Kirk. That was beautiful pictures and very inspiring. I found it very inspiring. Very interesting to see that only 99% of the national parks are not even visited. It's crazy when you think about it, and when you see the crowd in the Grand Canyon and so on. It's quite interesting. Yeah, I think we have a few questions. Actually, the first one is about Alaska. Is to know when is the right time to travel to Alaska? If you can tell us, Kirk.
Yeah, so there are a couple of reasons to go to Alaska. So in the summer, you want to go there to see wildlife. You want to see the bears, the elk, and the moose. You want to go fly fishing. So that is the summer season, which is generally June or mid-June, all the way through mid-September. I prefer September because after Labor Day in the United States, that's when a lot of the crowds die off. Also, the temperatures are just perfect in September. If you want to go see the Northern Lights, past September, the Northern Lights become stronger. In the fall, there's a little bit of cloud coverage that might prevent some viewing. So going into January, February could be a beautiful time to see the Northern Lights. Of course, it's a very different experience in Alaska. It's very far north and also very dark that time of year.
Quite varied, actually. Okay, thank you. There's another question about driving. I mean, do we do self-drive as ANK in the United States? I believe so, but if you can let us know more.
Yeah, that's a big question that we get a lot. So we offer both self-drive, where we create the itinerary, the accommodations, the activities along the way. So if you are self-driving, our guides there'll be a designated meeting point and time. They'll have their information, and off you go on your adventures with your guide. If it's a driver guide where we fully escort the trip, you're with your guide. We transport you around the trip. That could either be in an SUV for a smaller group, 2 or 3 people, or a Mercedes Sprinter van for a little bit larger groups. And we also have luxury motor coach buses. So if you can imagine like the big rock star bus that Bono and U2 shows up in, then that we have a series of those as well. And so you can really relax and enjoy the transportation.
Okay, all right, thank you, Kirk. Yeah, someone is asking us if we can send the presentation. Yes, of course, the presentation will be sent by a link in maybe a couple of days, I would say, the recording of it. But if you want to receive the presentation, the PowerPoint, I mean, that's also possible. You just let us know who you are because your name isn't mentioned on the little question, I'm sorry. And I have a last question, Kirk, regarding what is the situation for domestic flights in the United States at the moment? Is it working normally? How does it work?
Domestic flights are happening. People are flying. There is physical distancing on the planes. And so they're keeping a seat open between people. Remarkably, there are a lot of people that are flying and feeling comfortable flying. There are certain states, like Alaska, for example, that are more restrictive than others, meaning if you want to go to Alaska, you have to take a COVID test, and it has to be negative, and it has to be taken within 3 days of arrival. So if you take that test 2 days before you leave, you show up with your paper, you say, I'm negative, and then off you go, and then everything's fine. If you forget to do that and you get on the plane, you land in Alaska, you have to take the test right on the spot. That's where it gets tricky. So if you forget and you test positive in Alaska, then you have to quarantine for 14 days before you can come back. So I like to give that information up front to everyone. And I think that'll exist as long as there's not a vaccine.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's quite a tricky situation, but unfortunately, there's nothing more we can do for the time being. So, okay, I think I don't see any other question. Let me double check. No. No, okay, so thank you very much, Kirk. Thank you very much,
My pleasure.
everybody, for attending this webinar. That was the last one of our season. Thank you for being so loyal to the webinars, listening to our stories about all the Yankee destination. Please feel free to call us, to write us, to check our website. We are here to help, even though that border for most of our destinations are not yet opened, but we are very, let's say, impatient to see you all back in our destination as well as your clients. Thank you so much for your time, and bye-bye. Bye, Kirk.
All right, thank you.